Yo guys, what's up? Welcome to a brand new knife review. Today we're going to be taking a look at the Kershaw Method. There's a lot of good going on here. Really nice knife, especially for the price. I think you guys are really going to like this one. So without further ado, we'll get into the technical specs that I care about. All right, guys, so technical specs that I personally care about here. Blade steel is 8CR13 MOV, kind of your standard stuff for, knives in this price range. 3-inch blade, pretty pretty good size for everyday carry. Blade thickness is 0.11 inches or just under 3 millimeters. Nice and not thick, not too thin. 2.1 ounce weight, super nice. G10 handle scales, and it is a liner lock, kind of recessed in the handle there. Manual flipper on KVT bearings, so definitely a plus in my book. And it is right hand tip up carry only, so not reversible, just right hand carry. And price on this guy, which might be one of the standout features here, I guess, would be $24.95. So nice and inexpensive, but everything else makes it feel like it should be a little bit more, and we'll get in on that in a second. Next thing we're going to go over is the blade, so let's take a look at the blade. All right, guys, so taking a look at the blade here. First off, I like the blade shape. It's listed as a spear point, but I pretty much would just say that's like a normal kind of drop point-ish looking blade. I don't necessarily think that's a spear point, but whatever. Hollow ground blade, so it's already not super thick. Hollow ground blade makes it a little bit easier on the edge. Not particularly on this exact knife, but we'll get into that towards the end. The finish on it is, they say black stonewash. It isn't really like acid stonewash because it's got a little bit more of a shine to it than like a normal, like an acid stonewash typically that you would see. I kind of like it. It's kind of like almost looks like kind of like a gunmetal. 3 inches total length for the blade. I think that's great. It's perfect size for like a little EDC blade, which this is. Fits that role perfectly. Grind, it looks attractive. It's a Jens Anzo design, so there's no wonder why it looks good and functionally it works. So yeah, that's down and dirty on the blade. The minus point, at least in this example, is it's not, this one, the grind wasn't super thin down here, so you can see where this knife was sharpened. It was sharpened secondhand. It had to take a little bit of a higher angle to meet that nice edge. That sharpening choil there does go all the way, so there is a little bit where it's not sharpened, but I think that was partially due to the grind on this particular blade. Otherwise, I don't think you would have much of a problem there. Yeah, I think that about sums it up. Just a nice quick summary of the blade. It works. I really like it. Good length. Perfect for just your nitty gritty everyday carry knife. Now we'll get to the handle and we'll see what's going on there. All right, guys, so going over the handle, we got G10 handle scales, always a welcome thing. G10's great, love it. You got a little bit extra milled out here, probably maybe a little bit for grip, but I think mostly for aesthetics, and I do like it. I feel like it does add to the look of the knife. They could very well have gone with just a plain G10, but I like what they're doing here. Pocket clip is only on the right hand side, so not a huge issue for me, but if you are a stickler about having it on the left hand side, if you're a lefty, I guess you're kind of out of luck, but what else can you ask for a $25 knife? Backspacer's got the lanyard hole kind of protruding out a little bit. I don't really mind that. I typically don't really put lanyards on my knives anyways, but that's a pretty good size lanyard hole and it doesn't like detract from the design. In fact, I think it kind of, the shape of the lanyard hole there kind of fits in with the rest of the milled out pieces here. Ergos of the actual handle when you're holding it, it feels super nice. So it's almost on the short side, but you still get your whole forefinger grip on there, and it's everything falls right into place. You almost feel like you're going to run out of space with your pinky, but you get enough there where you feel like it's a good secure grip. No jimping on handle or blade here up at the top, but the grip you get's pretty decent already, so I feel like you don't really need it too much. I mean, it would have been nice, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. And like I said, something at this price, something like jimping or extra machining is going to add to the cost more, especially if you put it on the blade where you're milling in through metal. But whatever, I feel like the handle and the grip on this knife works either way. So the liner is only on the lock side, so you get the recessed metal liner on that side, and then just pure G10 on the inside there. So that does help with the weight, I'm sure. Yeah, G10's not too thick. The backspacer is just like GRN, FRN, whatever it is they use. It's the whatever plasticky BS. Not a big deal. Just 2 body screws and the pivot holding the knife together. So there that is. Pretty great. Gotta say, I really do love it so far. Now, with that, let's go into action and fit and finish. All right, guys, action and fit and finish. There are good and bad things going on here, and some of this might just be my example, but we'll see. First off, we'll go over the action. Action is actually surprisingly really good. Detent on this one is not, it's not super heavy, but I think where the flipper tab is and how you flip it, I think that helps a lot, and like it pretty much forces you to flip it the right way. And what I mean by that is you can see that flipper tab is pretty small. So you really, just the way that it's designed, you want to get your finger like on top of it because there's not, really anywhere else for you to put your finger. So when you do push the flipper tab in, it engages the lock when the knife comes out. I mean, there's not really you can try and, lightly make it not flip all the way. But if you're doing it normally and not thinking about it, the knife is going to deploy and engage the lock pretty reliably. So I do like the action on this. Now speaking to fit and finish, blade is centered and there's no play in any direction. That's not as hard to get on a knife that's on bearings, just because you can crank down on it and most of the time it'll be centered if all the machining's done evenly. But still, on knives in the lower price ranges, there's still sometimes where it can be off. So the fact that there's a manual flipper bearings, this price range, I feel like the whole knife is put together very well with the action being considered in that package. So I have no complaints there. In fact, I think it's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive you can get that action, solid lockup, all of that stuff with a $25 knife. It's not often that you see that. Um, Parts of this knife, at least this individual knife, that I think could be improved on, and like I said, this might just be this knife, is the the grind wasn't uh, executed super well on this one. So this knife was sharpened secondhand, and the person who sharpened this I know has experience sharpening knives, so I know it wasn't just a crappy job. But the angle, the pretty much like the correct angle, was made a pretty steep edge on there, and that was pretty much to correct the really um, I don't know, thick edge. Probably just this knife. I really doubt that's an issue on like a mass production scale, but I haven't seen too many of these, so I wouldn't know. Just my experience for that particular thing. Otherwise, as far as fit and finish goes, everything seems to be put together really well. Um, Everything matches up for the most part. There's no, crazy inconsistencies with the G10. Pocket clip there. Yeah, I think it's pretty great for 25 bucks. It's hard to argue that you can get this kind of value, um, even in the 30, $40. So I think all things considered, for 25 bucks, I mean, you pretty much have to pick one of these up, I feel like. This is one of those knives that is going to be like one of those models where someone's like, oh, well, I kind of want to like get into knives, or somebody that's looking for just a cheap beater for every day. The size, weight, price, and quality of this knife, I think, would be perfect. Um, and I'm not saying this is like, something like comparable to a ZT Spyderco or a Benchmade where you're paying, 50, 100, 150 bucks. But for the price and for, like I said, like an everyday beater, this is superb. It is really good. So if you're looking for just the everyday carry that you don't care that it gets beat up, but you still want it to be like somewhat nice, even if it's cheap, this is definitely, for this price range, it has to be at least top 10, maybe top 5, I would say. There's not very many other knives out there in the 20-ish dollar range that could even touch this, I think. So that that's where I'll leave that. Um, that being said, we'll go over, any closing statements, miscellaneous comments I have on the knife, and then we'll shut her down. So we'll get into that now. All right, guys. Final comments. I kind of already did a whole lot of this, but um, like I said, for the money, it's really hard not to like this. Um, Even not thinking about the price, there's really not a whole lot to complain about. The action is nice. The materials are pretty much there, with the exception of I don't like the whole plasticky backspacer thing, but it really honestly doesn't matter really if you think about it. Um, Blade steel, it is what it is. I still say the 8CR13 is like a perfect everyday steel, especially if you're just starting out, just because easy to sharpen. It gets really sharp. I mean, it takes a really fine edge, and it strops up and polishes really nice. It'll dull a little bit quicker than a premium steel, but if you need practice, sharpening or stropping blades, it's perfect. And for every day, you're, I mean, every few days you just strop it up, put it on a porcelain stone or something, and you're gonna be fine. So if that really annoys you, then yeah, go ahead and pick up a nicer steel blade, but it's hard to beat. Everything's there. I mean, it checks all the boxes. Perfect size, 2.1 ounce weight, is super light, so you're not really going to notice when you're carrying it. The action is there. It's got a really good smooth action. It looks cool. It really looks great, I think. Again, it's a Jens Anso design. Most of the stuff he puts out is bangers anyways, so this is another one. I really like the look of it. And yeah, that's my final thoughts. I think it's great, even greater for 25 bucks. So, um, if you guys like the knife, let me know what you think of it. Let me know if you have that same issue where the edge is, super thick right there and you have to sharpen it way crazy down. Otherwise, if it's your first time, go ahead and subscribe, like the video. I love it all. Thank you to everybody who supports me, and we'll catch you guys on the next video. Thanks.